Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the myResearch Grants live stream training. I'm Lorene Velez, and I'm a grants administrator with the Office of Sponsored Programs. I know my colleagues and I are very excited to bring you the myResearch Grants module to you guys. myResearch Grants is the second module in an interconnected system that will eventually encompass grants, agreements, IRB, and more. It is also a system that we will be able to change and grow with much easier than our current system. If you have any questions during the live stream training, you can use either the myResearch Grants Training group chat via Google Hangouts, which up there has the address to go through. Or you can email your questions to ovpr_myresearchgrants@stonybrook.edu. If you guys would like to practice or get a training log on, you could always email us at that email address and we can get one to you. Also, on one of our web addresses, we can access the training script that I'm using. So if you want, when you're by yourself with your training log on, you can try to go through this yourself. All right, so let me get started. So the first thing we're going to do is log into the system. This is just a test login. When the system goes live, your login will be your net ID and password. So the first screen it's going to take you to is your inbox. So everything you have pending, or if you have anything that comes in for you, will be sitting in your inbox. So the first thing you're going to do to create a funding proposal is you're going to go to grants, which you can either access here or here. Click grants. So these are all of the grants that you have active, and they're different states. So to create a new one, you're going to go create funding proposal. And now it's going to ask for you to fill in some information. So we're going to do a short title. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to pick a PI. I am going to pretend I'm an administrator for this one, so I'll be picking another PI. If you are an administrator and you pick another PI, before you leave this page, you will have to add yourself in another spot, which I'll show you in a second. If you don't, you will lose access to the page. So just make sure you do that. If not, you will have to contact us and we will have to try to get you added to it. So if you're going to find someone, you're going to click on this button and then you look them up. And hit go. Now, for the most part, you do not need to use any wildcards for most people's names. It's pretty good with that. The only time we've had to use a wildcard, which would be the percent sign, is usually for anybody who has a hyphenated last name. Those tend to be a little problematic. Okay. The other thing is anything with a red asterisk before it is required. So please make sure those are filled out. It will not let you continue without that. So here, our next question under PI is going to be if they have salary offset or IFR. So for this example, we're going to hit yes. And then if you hit yes, then you're required to enter your IFR account number, the number you would be able to get from your department. So for our number, we're going to enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you put in the effort that is IFR to this. So eventually our PI is going to be using 5% effort. So we're going to put the 5% here. And then you click OK. And then it puts it here. If you were required to, you would upload a biosketch and other support, but we don't need that. So in 3 or 4 is where the departmental research coordinator or the departmental administrative contact, which would be me in this case, would put my name so that I could keep access to the proposal. And there I am. I click on the little radio button and click OK. So there I am. So then our next thing would be to select a direct sponsor. We are creating a regular, what do you call it? Non-federal sponsor. So I'm going to pick them, and I'm going to do, so here, click them. Number 6. This is an important question. It's asking us if there are other personnel associated with the funding proposal, including key co-investigators, project staff, and TBD. If yes, you're required to add them on the personnel page. And note that additional personnel cannot be added on the budget manually. What this means is, if you click yes, which it's automatically click to yes, these people we add on the next page that comes up, and once they're added there, when we get to the budget page, they are included in a drop-down to be added in the personnel categories. If you do not know what their name will be, but you know that you, let's say, need a grad student, you would just do TBD and add them as a grad student. So then that way we could put them in the budget. If for some reason once you get to the budget, you go, oh my God, I forgot to add somebody, you would just have to come back to the personnel screen to add them, and then they'll be able to be added to the budget. The next questions are going to be if you would like anybody else to have rights to edit. If you put them in box on the 7, they will be able to read and edit. And if you add them to 8, they will have access just to read. Just so you know, you never have to add anyone from the sponsored programs office to any of these roles. We automatically have access in the system to see your proposal. Okay. So now when you get here, you can either hit the Save button here. That will just save and keep you on the same page. Or if you hit the Continue button, that's going to save and move you to the next page. So we're going to hit Save and Continue. So now that, once that page is saved, we get a couple of more choices up here on the top menu. We have Save, Exit, Hide and Show Errors. We can print or we can jump to. As long as you've done the first page, you can now exit and come back to this later. It's created a funding proposal number that you can use when referencing this if you need to talk to us about something. If you click this, it'll hide and show any errors that you have. You can print it, or you can use this jump to go directly to another screen you may have. This is helpful if you come back in to edit. You can go directly to what you need to edit. You can either do it that way, or you can, if you just hit continue, it'll take you it'll take you through the application page by page. So for this, we're going to add some staff. The first person we're going to add we're going to add our technician. And this one is other personnel. They are not IFR'd, and they do not have a School of Medicine offset. which is usually involved with clinical trials. And then we're going to hit OK and add another because we're adding a second person. And this one is going to be a TBD. And they will be a grad student. They are other personnel, no salary offset, and they also are not School of Medicine offset. And then OK. So now we have the two of them added here. If you were having any non-institutional investigators, you would add them into two. We don't, so we will hit continue and save. On this page, we have general proposal information. So the first question is proposal type. So in this case, we will be picking new. The type of sponsor is automatically pulled over from the sponsor you've selected. Question 2 is if this is a modular budget. It is not. This is not an NIH, so this is no. 3 is if it's a resubmission or a renewal, you would enter the sponsor number here. Or if this award was transferring from another institution, that's automatically at no. The next question 4 is to indicate how the forms will be submitted to the sponsor. If they will be submitted system to system through the myResearch app or other. We are currently not using myResearch for system to system. We will be bringing that feature in at a later date. So currently everything will be other for this question. The instrument type, for our purposes, we are using grant, but depending on what you pick, other questions may pop up. So if we were doing a contract, you'll see that you would then have to choose your contract type. Similarly, if you press other things, sometimes another question will appear. We're going to describe the purpose of this project. So this is going to be organized research. Is this a clinical trial? No. But if it was yes, we would then get another question. And then again, if we had yes to this, another question would open up. So depending on your questions, your answers, more items might pop up. This is not a multi-PI submission. And then number 9 is this an on-off campus split? This question used to be on the COEA's proposal form, and it helps drive your IDC rate. We've gotten rid of the COEA's proposal form. It's questions that are now scattered throughout the application and the program. So what you're going to do is here, you're going to pick what your split is, if there is a split. If it's 100% on campus, you just click that. If there is a split, you click on the button, and then it'll ask you to add the performance site. This will then drive the budget module and how much it calculates for your IDC. We're keeping it at 100. And then we're going to say continue and save. So for this, for research department determination, 1, you're going to select the submitting department. So it should automatically come up as the PI's main department. This may need to be changed if you have multiple departments that the PI is affiliated with, or if there's some sort of special arrangement, but usually it comes up as the correct department. The sponsored research location will automatically be filled in as us. Number 3 is just asking if the proposal is affiliated with any of the following centers or institutes. If it is affiliated with it, or if this has work that's being done under that affiliation, you would just have to check the box off, and a notification would be sent to inform them of that. Then you press continue and save. So for compliance review, you would pick whatever compliance issues your proposal would have. If you have none, you can select all no's for this question. So I'm going to click, but I am going to select human subjects so we can see what it looks like. So every time you click a yes, it will add the form that you have to fill out to the packet. If you have no's, no other forms are added to the packet, and it takes you through. The next question it's going to ask you is about export controls. So it would like to know about development of any classified information, unclassified information. So you're going to say no. And then 3 is talking about if you will be requiring or conducting any services with embargoed countries. And that's a no. So with human subjects, we're going to do not yet submitted. But if for some reason, once the IRB unit comes up online, the systems will talk to each other. So you should be able, if you have an approved IRB protocol, you should be able to pull them into each other, because the two systems will talk to each other, which will be a nice feature that everything will be able to go back and forth between the systems. So then we're just going to hit continue. Commitment of additional resources. If your proposal requires any items below, so if you have hospital personnel or use of the facilities, renovations, or any extra additional storage from Do It, you would just click off what you needed. And if you have any research involved with the veterans, with the VA, patients, personnel, or facilities. So we're going to click no and continue. So then we're going to have your discipliner field. You can pick whatever most closely describes what you're doing. And then if you want, you can also fill out a secondary. Then if the proposal is related to the following cancer research or HIV research. Now, just please remember that most of these questions that have the asterisk are questions that are on the in the grants.gov packet that are required to be answered, so we could not get rid of them. Okay, so now we have some general submission information. This is going to be where we upload our documents for the application, your required documents. So it's going to ask a question of, is this a clinical trial? If it's a clinical trial, there are different documents that you're going to have to upload than if this is a regular grant contract submission. So if you click no, it gives us this button. It says click button to upload mandatory routing documents. So you click the button and it's going to open up and ask you to attach your scope of work or abstract, a facility statement, and budget justification, or a full copy of your proposal as appropriate. So you would just do add, and you can provide a title. If not, you can just upload the file and it will give it a title. Choose file. So we're going to add our abstract. Okay, and add another. Budget justification. and then OK. So here are the three. You could also drag and drop the files. It's a little hard to do that on one screen. If you have two screens, it's a little bit easier. Now you hit OK. So now all of the documents are in there. For three, it's other attachments as applicable. So this would be if you have an RSR form, any subrecipient commitment forms, budgets, justifications, if there's a special program announcement that we need to know about, anything that you would want us to know aside from the mandatory documents, you would upload those here. You hit continue. So now we're going to put in our submission deadline. If you don't have a submission deadline, it's required that you put a date in. Put a date that you would like to submit it by. Again, the dates are kind of important, so that's why it's mandatory. We don't want anything getting lost in submission. So for this, I'm going to put August 31st. And just so that everybody remembers, myResearch is for anything that is due starting July 1. So if you have a deadline of July 1 in all, and after, you have to use myResearch. And then the expected start date of your proposal. So with the expected start date, this is going to fill the start date out for your budget periods and the budget. So on this field, if you then hit the Save button, it's going to give you the date that it should be in OSP. This date that it should be in OSP does not include any chair or dean reviews that need to be done prior to us. So any special deadlines that the chair or dean put on you is separate from our deadline. So then we're going to hit continue. So this is taking us to the budget periods. This is just telling us how long the project is and the years. So here you can see that it's brought in the start date, and it's automatically going to choose 5 years. So for our purposes, we're going to be using 3 years. So since we want to remove some budget periods, we're just going to hit the remove button, and it takes it away. And then when you hit save, it now shows you that the budget is 3 years. If we took away too many years, you can always hit add, and it'll add the year back. So the other nice item is that sometimes we do DOE or Department of Defense grants, and the Department of Defense grants, they like to make up weird little, years of 4 months and then 12 months and then 8 months. So if you're doing something special like that, we can customize the duration of the months for your budget periods. The other item is that the target direct and target indirect sections do not need to be completed. We're leaving those blank. In future versions of this budget, they will not be included at all. So we're just going to keep those blank. So the next thing we're going to do is save and continue. So now we'd like to know about research performance sites. So Stony Brook obviously automatically pulls itself in for the first one. And then if there are any additional research performance sites, you would add them here. They should flood in when we go live. If you do not see one, you would contact your OSP administrator for us to get it added to the system. Next is our intellectual property questions. So we just click off on our questions. Again, depending on your answers, some of the questions may open up a secondary question. Then you hit continue, and that's the end of the first part of the proposal. Once you hit finish, it's going to take you to the main dashboard for this funding proposal. So it's going to give you the information about the proposal, your starting date, the number of periods, department. Right now, as we haven't put a budget in yet, it doesn't have any money listed. If you need to go back and edit or change anything, you would click Edit Funding Proposal, so it would take you back. The next step that you're going to follow is go to Credit Distribution. This should look similar to what we're used to. It was taken from COIUS, so it's a little familiar, and it will carry forward the PI's department. And similarly, we have the financial credit, the recognition credit, and our proposal credit. If you had more than one PI, you would split the credit as needed. In our case, we just have the one PI, so we're going to do the 100% credit to this PI. And then you would hit OK for it to save or apply. And now that's completed, and it takes you back to your main funding screen, main proposal screen. And we can go to the budget. So when you work with the budget, it automatically creates the first working budget for you. If for some reason you needed to create another one, you could. If you wanted to, fool around and create, a couple of different to see what works best. This is the budget overview. Right now we haven't entered anything, so everything's at 0. To get into it, you're going to hit Edit Budget. So it's going to bring you to the first page of the budget. And here it's going to ask for a budget title. So you can either rename it or leave it as is. And then it asks for the investigator. And then it's going to ask you, does this budget use standard indirect cost base and rates? So if for some reason you were using a special funding announcement where you were being capped on your rate, you would click no, and it would ask you for the information to be filled in. If you click yes, it automatically has everything you need to know here, and it's telling you what the rate will be for each of your budget periods. This is where any subaward information will go, and then it's going to ask us, will this budget have cost sharing? And I think we're saying no, and include this budget in your proposal. This question comes along more often when you have more than one budget that you've created, which one you would like to have as the final budget. Our next step is to do the personnel costs for the budget. So, if there was a salary cap, for example, NIH has a salary cap, you would put the salary cap here. It would make sure not to calculate the salaries over that amount. Similarly, if you would like to use an inflationary rate, you would be able to add it here. And an inflationary rate is not allowed for NIH. So for adding personnel, you're going to click Add. And then it'll ask you can fill in the person from the drop-down box. So now you can see all the people that we've added to the proposal. So I'm going to pick our PI. So now it automatically puts a 12-month appointment, but you pick the appointment. So we're going to do, she's a 9-month. She is the PI. She is key personnel. We're going to put in her base salary. And then pick her fringe benefits. So she is SUNY IFR. So now it automatically has put in here her fringe rate. So now for her effort, she is dedicating 5% effort, and she's requesting 5% salary. So now what we do is she's going to keep that constant. So we're going to click this little triangle button. That's going to carry that forward to all the years for both of them, and now it has calculated out how much that is. So then we're going to add, she's going to be collecting summer salary. So we click add, and then we click on the person again, and we just pull her from the drop-down box. We change this to summer, put in her base again, and then for fringe benefits, we do summer employees only. So now it's used the summer fringe. It's calculated what the base would be. And then she's doing 2 months, which is 66. That's 66. We carry that through. That's the amount. So now we want to see how much we're at so far. We can hit save. And now that's going to bring that up to the top and give you a running total of how much the project is at so far. So we'll scroll down again. We're going to add our technician. So Rhodesia, 12-month technician, her annual salary, 8,000. Her fringe benefits, so she's a regular RF employee. There's her fringe, and 100%, 100%. There we go. And then our last one is going to be our grad student. So we're going to click TBD, one grad student, and then grad student salary. So there, so now if we hit save, we can see exactly what we're at for personnel. So when we hit continue, it'll now take us to our general cost screen. So here again, it allows you to add an inflationary rate if allowed by the sponsor. And then again, you have the add button to add your category. And then it asks for the cost type. And we have a list of different costs that you can use. So for equipment, you just click equipment. And in this part, I will tell you that equipment is the only one that you are required to add a description for. All of the other categories have the description field, but it is usually not required to actually fill it out. Equipment, it is required. So, and how much it is. So that's for 1 year. And then you click add to add the next one. So our next cost is going to be travel, domestic, and we're going to do 5,000 for each year. And we click the arrow, and that's going to carry it through to all years. So now you can see equipment is a category that you don't charge IDC on. So you can see that the apply indirect rate is not calculated. It doesn't have a check on it. But travel, you do charge IDC, so apply indirect is checked. So it's automatically calculating what does and doesn't get IDC charged on it. Add another category. So now we're going to add our materials and supplies. 23. So I can do 23 in the first year, and if I wanted to, instead of hitting the arrow, I can always change the amounts out for the next years. And of course, we have to add student tuition. So that's going to be listed under graduate student tuition. And then that's all years. So now that we've added all of the categories, we can hit save to see what we're at. So that's our total. And we can hit continue. And if there are any attachments that you need, so example, if there's a special IDC rate, this is where you can put that information for us. And then you hit finish. So now it takes us back to the budget landing page. And here you can see it's a generalized breakdown of how much is in the budget, how much your IDC is, and how much is being requested. So there. So now if you want to go back to the main award, you're going to click on this for our little breadcrumbs. And this is going to be your funding proposal. And you click on this, and it takes you back to the funding proposal screen. And now it has added the total direct cost, the total indirect cost, and the total to your project. So at this point, if everything's okay, you can submit it for department review. So this is submit for department review. You would click on this button here, submit for individual or department review. And read through your certifications. So now its state has changed from draft to department review. So that's, it's out of your hands and it's moving on. You can also check here on your history. It'll say that you've submitted it for department review and at what time. Or if you hit credit routing information, it will also tell you who is currently reviewing it, who needs to review it, and who they're waiting for. So it has a long list that you can always be checking to see where it is at any time. The other item is, let's say you didn't want to send it yet or you forgot something. You can go right here and hit the recall button, and it'll bring it right back to you. It'll change it to department review response pending from PI, but you do have access to it now. So now you can go back in, and if you needed to edit something, you would be able to go in and edit what you needed. Another nice feature that I should tell you about is with COEUS, if the sponsor was not in COEUS, you had to wait till the sponsor was there for you to be able to continue your application. Now in this system, if the sponsor is not there, you can request to add the new sponsor. And while you're waiting for that, to be added, you would be able to select TBD for the sponsor and continue your application. And then once the sponsor has been approved and added to the system, you can then change your sponsor and actually have it routed. So it saves you a little bit of time, and that you don't have to wait around. You would only have to wait until the sponsor has been added to submit. So that's a little helpful in terms of waiting on that. I think what else I said that. And I said that. So that's the basics of going through setting up a funding proposal. Exit. In the system. If you have any questions, feel free to always contact the Office of Sponsored Programs, or email us with any questions that you may have. We're here to help. We're excited about the new system, and we can't wait until you guys get to use it. That's all. Thanks a lot.